After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, gang? Welcome to another episode of Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. This is Recliner Sports, and we have a 5-1 defeat for the Montreal Canadiens at the hands of the Los Angeles Kings. Probably not the most entertaining Canadiens game you've watched this year. I mean, it's not the end of the world, and I think that, I've just spent the last hour dealing with panic-laden Montreal Canadiens fans who are freaking out over Sam Montembeault, so hopefully we're not going to have to do that here as well. It's not panic time, guys. The Canadiens are still at the top of the Eastern Conference. They're still 10-4-2. They're still playing good hockey. This was a bad game, but again, it's not anything worth panicking over. And they will have an opportunity on Thursday to get back in the winning column. So let's talk a little bit about the game before we do. This show, Habs After Dark, is something we do after. What's up, Billy D? This is something we do after every Montreal Canadiens game. If you're inclined to join us, come on over. If you are enjoying the content, we invite you to give us a thumbs up. And if you want to be part of the Recliner Sports family and be part of our community that we're trying to grow here, then I would invite you to hit the button down below. Welcome, enter, tap. We'll get into the game here in a second. The other thing I would add, c'est une émission en français aussi, c'est une émission bilingue. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français, si vous avez des commentaires en français, vous pouvez les donner. Je vais faire mon mieux de vous répondre en français. Mon français, c'est pas parfait, mais je vais faire à mon mieux de vous communiquer en français si c'est votre choix. So that's it. Si vous êtes de francophone, vous pouvez aussi pousser sur le bouton en bas. Vous pouvez pousser sur la cloche pour avoir des notifications, mais c'est certainement une place où tout le monde est bienvenu et certainement on va faire notre mieux de communiquer avec vous en français ou en anglais. If you're French and you want to talk in French, I'm happy to do my best to try and communicate with you that way. Enter tap. Not a great game, but it happens. Yeah, I mean that was a struggle for the Canadians. They had a decent first period. Came out of that first period with a 1-0 lead. But I mean, we're talking about one of the more veteran teams in the NHL. And once they were able to get on the board and get out ahead of the Canadians, they're really quite capable at shutting things down. Right? They're very very good at at just pinching everything off and closing everything down. And that's sort of what they did tonight. Somebody made a really astute comment in the TikTok live today about the Canadians' passes didn't look very crisp. Um, and, I think that was a very, very astute comment. But again, I think, we can attribute a lot of that to the defensive play of the LA Kings. The LA Kings are a really good defensive team. They do a great job of getting their stick in passing lanes. They do a good job of clogging up the neutral zone. Not unlike the system that the Canadians are trying to play and that Marty St. Louis is trying to incorporate into his team. So, yeah, I think they're, again, a very young team playing against a very veteran team. And that's a result that you might expect in that scenario. Carey Price couldn't have won that game. I don't disagree with that, Billy D. Again, I'll nip this in the bud, the whole Sam Montembeault stuff. I had a lot of people telling me that Montembeault was terrible tonight. Realistically, he let in one bad goal. The first goal, I think, again, you might argue that he could have been positioned a little bit better, but it was a bit of a blind shot from the point. The second goal was, about a minute of essentially power play time in the Canadian zone where, eventually they were able to put the puck in the net. And then, of course, the third goal was, a very bad play by him. He should have frozen that puck, and he just sort of dished it right off to the opposing player who was able to bury it, Fiala, I believe it was. But, at the end of the day, the expected goals against the Canadiens tonight was right up around 4, and that was the number of goals that Montembeault let in. Obviously, you would prefer your goalie to have a positive goals saved above expected, but he was basically even when it came to expected goals tonight, and the Canadiens didn't do him a lot of favors. And outside of that one goal, or even that 3 or 4 minute period, or period of time in the second period, I thought, especially in the first period, I thought Montembeault looked really, really good, and this is 3 good starts for him in a row. And I'm not going to sort of start talking about him being back. But the Montembeault hate that's going on out there is quite. If it wasn't so typical, it would kind of be laughable. But there are people out there who, I had a serious conversation with somebody the other day who told me that Sam Montembeault needed to go to Laval. He needed to be sent down to Laval so that he could find his form back in Laval. When I explained to him that Montembeault would have to go on waivers to go to Laval, he told me that he knew that, but that he was quite certain that that there would be no teams in the NHL that would want to pick Montembeault up on waivers. So that's kind of the mentality that you're dealing with a little bit. But Montembeault's going to be fine. I think he's been playing better lately, and I think he's obviously doing better than he did earlier in the season, and. Again, I'm not prepared to say that he's quote unquote back, but I don't think tonight was a game where you would look at him and say that he cost them anything tonight, or that he played so badly that he was the reason why they lost. He clearly was not. Entertap, Kings seem pretty happy to just flip pucks out of the zone and try to sit on the lead. Yeah, absolutely. They're a veteran team. They know how to play a road game. They know how to win games like that. These are not youngsters out there playing. They know how things work in the NHL, and they know how to shut down another team, right? They know how to shut the game down and just like I said, pinch everything off. And there's no opportunities out there. Again, that observation that the Canadiens' passes looked like they were off a little bit tonight. Well, that's because the Kings weren't really giving them many opportunities. This should have been Dobesh's start. I don't agree with that, Intertap. I don't. I think that, in Marty St. Louis' mind, and I don't think he's wrong, Sam Montembeault is still the number one goalie, and Montembeault was coming off a decent start previously, and the opportunity to give him another start and get him back in form. I don't know that necessarily they have to be, at a you go, I go situation right now where it's a 50-50 split where they go one after another. I mean, to be fair, this was a game that they would have probably looked at as an opportunity for Montembeault to I don't want to say a weaker team, but this was a game that they could have won. Trying to look at the schedule for the rest of the week. So they got the Kings, the Stars, and the Bruins, right? So, this was probably, the game of between this game and Thursday's game, this was the one that they probably viewed as the one that was more easily won. So I don't know that I agree that this should have been Dobesh's start. Didn't see the last two Kings goals. One was a kind of a rough play for Hudson. Hudson was going back to retrieve a puck. Armia pressured him from behind, lifted his stick, took the puck away, and went in all alone and beat Montembeault. And then the last goal was an empty net goal. I don't think Montembeault gets the next start. I think Dobesh probably would have gotten the next start regardless of how this game went. Again, I don't think that Montembeault did anything tonight to lose any opportunity that would have been there. So, if Dobesh starts on Thursday, I don't think it will be because Montembeault did anything tonight to take away any type of opportunity that he might have had. Or I don't think that's the case. I think Dobesh probably would have started either way. If Montembeault had a 49 save shutout tonight, then maybe you consider putting him back in on Thursday. But again, if Dobesh starts on Thursday, I don't think it will be because they, feel that Montembeault struggled tonight, because I don't think he did. I don't think he struggled tonight. He gave up one bad goal realistically. And I mean, he didn't win the game for them, but he certainly didn't lose the game for them either. So I'm not prepared to put any part of this loss at Sam Montembeault's feet. To be honest, the negative talk on Monty is over-exaggerated, but not really without merit. Monty has not been on his game, and MSL should really ride the hot hand. Disagree, Entertap. I think it is largely without merit. I mean, the idea, again, you can criticize Monty and you can say that Montembeault has not played well, because that's accurate. But the suggestion that he should lose his starting job, and when I say starting job, I don't mean necessarily his share of the starts, or his number one job is what I should be saying. It's not his share of the starts. It's more so the idea that Dobesh should be sort of quote unquote the number one. As far as riding the hot hand goes, I mean, you can ride the hot hand all you want, but what happens when the hot hand isn't hot anymore, and all of a sudden your other goalie hasn't played in a week, or 10 days, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, right? Now all of a sudden you've got two goalies that don't work, and for the Canadiens to succeed this year, they're going to need both of their goalies playing at their best. And so yes, it's you can agree. I think we can all agree that Montembeault has been less than ideal so far this season. But the idea that you're going to replace him as the number one goalie with a guy who's got 25 games of NHL experience, and the idea that you're going to quote unquote ride the hot hand and somehow let Montembeault sit on the bench for some lengthy period of time. I mean, that's just not smart for the Montreal Canadiens. They need to have both of their goalies going if they want to succeed this season. So, you're right. It is over exaggerated. This idea that Montembeault is going to be sent down, or that he should be traded, or that he should be put on waivers, or all. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. And, any type of criticism that's coming to Montembeault tonight for tonight's game is also ridiculous because he wasn't that bad tonight. He wasn't bad at all tonight. He didn't have his best game. Could he have, in his best form, could he have stood on his head and perhaps given the Canadiens, some kind of opportunity to do more than what they did? Yeah, potentially. But again, he didn't let in, a bunch of terrible goals tonight. He let in one really bad goal. And the other ones, I would say, I'm not prepared to, to put the other ones at his feet. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can bring up his stats, but of course, as is often the case, Natural Stat Trick doesn't want to cooperate. Yeah, I agree with that, Randy. But goalies are going to give up bad goals. Goalies are going to give up bad goals. Like the LA Kings tonight had an expected goal, had more than 4 expected goals, and Monty let in 4 goals. Right, Montembeault allowed 4 goals, and the expected goals for them were 4. So yes, I agree with you. The third goal was terrible, but I mean, you can't expect your goalie not to let in a couple. They're going to let in bad goals. Not saying a replacement necessarily, but analytics don't support Monty. Pick easier teams for Monty for the time being in hopes of restoring his confidence. Well, I think that's what they've done, Intertap. Right? He went, what did he go, 10 days, 11 days without playing? Dobesh made 3 starts in a row, I think it was. So I mean, I think they did that. And Montembeault came back from that, that time off and has looked good. So, again, I'm not sure what people want more. I mean, there's people out there that think that Dobesh should be playing every single game. But I think they've done that. I mean, in that sense, they've lessened the workload on Montembeault for a period of time, giving him an opportunity to try and refine his form. Again, I'm not prepared to say that he's back, but he certainly has looked better in his last couple of starts. So I don't get some of the criticism. Again, I don't get the criticism for him tonight. It's a situation now where he struggled a little bit in the early part of the season. So every time, a bad goal goes in, the casual fans are going to, freak out and lose their mind, right? And they're going to, start talking about, trading him or sending him down, or he's not a good goalie, or he's not a start, he's not a number one, or he should be a backup, or this, that, and the other thing, right? This, it's, again, these narratives in Montreal have a tendency to get out of control, where, people are fed an opinion about a player, by the media or what have you, and then all of a sudden that narrative kind of spirals because every time that player does something wrong, the whole world wants to jump down his throat. Like we've seen it with Laine, we've seen it with Doc, we've seen it with Newhook, we've seen it with Matheson, we've seen it with lots of these guys, right? Like where Matheson, some guy in the media says that Matheson, is this, that, and the other thing, and then all of a sudden, every time Matheson does something wrong, it turns into a much bigger thing. And I think that's kind of happening with Montembeault right now. And the reality is that, I think Marty St. Louis' strategy with Montembeault right now is to try and get him back on track, because that is the best case scenario for Montreal. I think that's what they need to do, and I think that's what they're trying to do. That's why he started tonight. That's, in my opinion, why he started tonight. When you talk about pick easier teams for Monty, I think tonight's the easier team. I think LA would be the easier team than Dallas. I think you would probably argue that LA is the easier team than Boston, who they play on Saturday night. So him playing tonight, I don't think. I don't think you can have it both ways. You can't say that tonight should have been Dobesh's start, but then also say that Monty should be getting the easier starts. Let's do the scoreboard here real quick, guys. Again, not a lot of exciting things to talk about when it comes to the scoreboard. Canadiens lose 5-1, despite jumping out to a 1-0 lead in the first on a goal from Josh Anderson, assisted by Hudson and Evans. Again, just some nice hustle play down low. In their own end. Pardon me. Hudson causes a turnover, kills a play. The puck pops out to Evans. Evans carries it out, gives the puck to Hudson, who feeds Anderson, who just, again, Anderson just like, I think he even admitted between the periods that he just kind of fired at the net and hoped for the best, and it, turned out to be a pretty good shot. Early in the second period, the first 5 minutes of the second period, the arse fell out of her, as they would say in Newfoundland, and the Canadiens just allowed 3 quick goals, including we've talked about the one goal, the third one, which was a bit of a mess by Montembeault. Montembeault had an opportunity to freeze the puck and tried to direct it into the corner, and instead he directed it right onto Kevin Fiala's stick, and Fiala beat him. And then, again, the unassisted goal in the third period by Armia, where he robbed or picked Lane Hudson's pocket from behind and went in all alone on Montembeault and was able to beat him. So, it was a pretty decent start to the game. But after that, it was pretty messy. After the first period, it didn't go that well for the Canadiens. And once the Kings got out to a lead, they kind of shut things down on Montreal, and there really wasn't much to do. Corsi tonight was pretty close, 61-58. Shots were 26-22. The Canadiens dominated the hits, 21-10. Faceoffs were pretty well even. High danger chances, again, highly in favor of the LA Kings. I think it's actually, that number isn't, did I have that right? 19-6. And then, like I said, you see 4.83 expected goals for the LA Kings. That will include the empty netter. So, again, that's a little bit off. But you got that one, Billy D. I figured you'd like that. So again, the Canadiens didn't do Sam Montembeault any favors tonight with the chances that they allowed and the quality of the scoring opportunities that they allowed the LA Kings to have. So we'll get to the A team here in a minute. Entertap says that it's hard to pick the A team tonight. I agree. It was very hard to pick the A team tonight. It was kind of like going back to those games last year early in the season where there were games where you really had a hard time trying to find four guys that you could legitimately say had good games. Do you care to throw your A team out there, Entertap, or what do you think? Are you maybe the B team? I mean, I'm gonna show you who my A team was if you want. So basically, for those of you who are new here, the A team is my sort of 3 stars of the game. Rather than pick 3, I pick 4 based on the 1980s TV show The A Team. Basically, the 4 guys who I felt did the most for the Canadiens on any given night. They were the best players. Jacky, Kapanen, Suzuki, and Dobson. Actually, I think we're kind of close on that. I think we're kind of close, Entertap. Yeah, we're really close. We got 3 out of 4 there, Entertap. We got 3 out of 4 there. So, I mean, maybe you and I are pretty smart, Entertap. Let's see, I put enter taps up there on the board first before I go to the A team. So your A team for tonight, as selected by me, being the 4 players who I thought performed the best for the Canadiens, were Nick Suzuki, Noah Dobson, Arbor Jackeye, and Cole Caulfield. I mean, Nick Suzuki playing with what we now know is an injury to probably his foot, but lower body. Just a gutty performance from the captain. We were told. We even heard him interviewed today where he talked about the fact that he wasn't going to be able to skate the way he normally does. And what really stuck out to me, there was one play in particular that stuck out to me in the second period, shortly after they allowed the third goal. There was a play where he hustled after a puck going down into the LA Kings zone along the left-hand boards, beat the defenseman to the puck, and won a puck battle. And again, a guy who we're told is going to struggle to skate very well, but is going to try and gut it out, and he's out there skating at full speed, beating a Kings defenseman to the puck, and then winning a board battle. In a situation where the team needed a little bit of a jump and a little bit of a boost. And I thought that, he did give the team, I think the team played well for a little bit after that. It did give a bit of a jolt of energy to the team. And I thought it was a gutty performance from Nick Suzuki. Arbor Jackeye, again, I just think he continues to look good. I mean, this is probably 3, maybe 4 games in a row where he's certainly been the better of him and Struble. Again, I don't know that that's the right way to look at it, because I mean they're both players on the Canadiens. But when Goulet does come back, that's going to be the choice that needs to be made. I thought he looked a lot more relaxed. He's looked a lot more relaxed for a few games now. He's not out there trying to make big plays. He did a good job of clearing the front of the net. He did a good job of winning battles along the boards. He did a good job of breakouts. His passes were relatively crisp, certainly, in relation to everybody else. And sort of, he looked very good that way. Got some penalty kill time in the first period and looked decent there. Not out of place for sure. So, again, Jackeye's future, I think, is going to, at least in part, be dependent on his ability to kill penalties. He's going to need to be able to kill penalties if he wants to have a significant role on this team going forward. And so I think those are all positive things for Jackeye tonight. He did a good job. The physical side of things, again, not out there necessarily throwing big, huge, yard sale type body checks, but, using his size and his strength to win board battles and to beat up guys along the boards. Noah Dobson, I thought, looked good again tonight. He just is such a smooth guy. Looks good offensively, looks good defensively. Got a couple, I don't know how many shots he ended up with. Did he end up probably just with 1 or 2? But, looked good, from the point. He's just so smooth, going back for the puck and clearing the zone, right? He's just, controlled exits are they just look so easy with him, which is such a great thing to be able to watch when, the Canadiens really struggled with that at times last year, right? And now, you've got Dobson, who, appears to be so good at it. You've got Matheson, who is pretty darn good at it. Hudson's always been pretty good at it. And, even Carey, it's just, it's almost like it's become contagious where they're all a lot better at getting the puck out of their own zone now, right? They're better at going back, retrieving the puck, turning around. Remember last year they were like, how many times were they just flipping? Entertap, mentioned it earlier about the Kings just kind of flipping the puck out into the neutral zone. Well, remember last year the Canadiens would do that 7, 8, 9 times a game sometimes, where they would, they'd come out of their zone and there was just, there were no options, and all they really could do was, either, drive it off the glass or just flip it up in the air. Well, we're not seeing that anymore, right? We're not seeing that so much anymore because, Dobson and Matheson and Hudson are so good at going back and retrieving that puck, that they don't have to do that anymore, and so it's opening up space for guys like Jack-I now too, because Jack-I can use his partner, whether it's Hudson or Carrier, as an outlet, and it makes things a lot easier. And so the Canadiens have really improved that side of their game, and I think having Noah Dobson back there is a huge part of it. Cole Caulfield, again, just another solid game from Caulfield. I could have just as easily given this to Uri Slafkovsky. I think, again, I don't think it was the first line's best game of the year, but in relation to the rest of the lineup, I thought they looked quite good tonight. Caulfield's numbers, his advanced metrics, again, are pretty high tonight. I think he led the team in expected goals. Against percentage, or expected goals for percentage, I guess, depending on your perspective. I'll just confirm that as I am here. He was third on the team in expected goals for, behind, believe it or not, Joe Veleno and Nick Suzuki. So the Veleno hate is also quite real of late. But Caulfield, again, pretty solid play from Caulfield. If you're over on YT, or if you're over on TikTok, guys, and you want to have a chat, come and join us on our YT channel, Recliner Sports 4. We're talking about the game over here. Unfortunately, I can't answer your questions there at the moment, but if you come over here, we can certainly have you join in the conversation on YT. So pop on over to our YT channel and join the conversation over here. So those are your members of the A team for tonight, guys. Did I screw it up royally? I feel comforted by the fact that Entertap and I essentially agree on it. Entertap's usually right, so if I'm agreeing with him, I feel pretty comfortable about that. So, but I'm happy to listen to alternate opinions. If you have other guys that you think should be on the A team that I've left out, or if there's guys that I've included on the A team that you think are totally undeserving of being there, then I certainly would love to hear what you have to say. So I'm doing an awful lot of talking here now, guys. The questions have kind of dried up. If you have any conversation or comments to make, then I'd love to hear them. I certainly much prefer to converse with you guys than to just be the guy here running his mouth for you guys to listen to. If you do have any questions, certainly fire away. While you're doing that, I will certainly point out that if you're first time here, if you're new, if you're not yet subscribed, you can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. If you want to have notifications, you can hit the notification bell. We are trying to grow our community here. We're trying to get our family a little bit bigger. We're trying especially to get to 500 subscribers. I think we're still about 30 or so short of 500. So any subscriber is welcome. We certainly would love for you to be a part of our community here. What we try to do is we try to have some thoughtful conversation about the Montreal Canadiens. We're not just going to rah cheer for our team and dump on other teams. We're here to have some sort of intelligent, thoughtful conversations about our team and how how we feel about the team, and again, not just getting into the cheering kind of stuff, but trying to get a little bit deeper than that. So Entertap has a question. Should Marty St. Louis have called a timeout when LA was scoring early and quickly at the start of the second? Yeah, I don't know that I would say he should have. In retrospect, you could say that he could have called one there, that would have been a good time for one. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that he screwed up by not calling one, but certainly I think it would have been a good time for one. Does that make sense to put it that way? Like, I think again, Marty is a relatively young coach. Things like that are, if you've ever been behind the bench, it's not an easy thing to do, to remember or to think about stuff like that at that time. Yeah, so I don't know that I would use that as a criticism of him in the sense that, oh, he should have known to call a timeout, or he messed up by not calling a timeout. But I think, yeah, I mean, looking back, I think that's probably a good point, Entertap, that he could have maybe, after that second goal, the second one being the one that happened after the lengthy delayed penalty, he maybe could have, called a timeout to give the team a rest. Although I will say that I think, as a coach, you also are very, very cognizant and conscious of trying to save your timeout. It's, you don't typically want to be using your timeout, in the second period. But yeah, it's, it's, yeah, but that, those are all things that are playing on you. I mean, I think, you've seen even of late, Marty St. Louis has been pretty open about his game management and his coaching during a game, right? Like that, he's talked about how he could do a better job of giving certain players more ice time, that he could do a better job of managing matchups and things like that. He's been pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Self-critical, I guess, of that, and in a good way. I mean, he's been pretty honest about it. That the hardest part for him has been the aspect of coaching that happens during a game, and that's part of it. I would say that that's probably something that's hard for a lot of coaches to do, is to recognize when you could probably make use of a timeout to sort of slow things down a little bit. But yeah, it's a good observation. It's a good observation. Again, it's not something I think I would criticize him over, or say that he screwed up by not calling one. But I think it's probably something that maybe he takes away from this game and says, maybe next time, he thinks about that a little bit more. I mean, he's got some experienced guys behind the bench with him too, right? I mean, I don't know to what degree Robida is able to whisper in his ear or make suggestions like that. Letowski is probably a little bit more experienced behind the bench than Marty St. Louis is, but not a whole lot. So yeah, I don't know, but it's a good observation. It would have been, again, it's funny because it might have been something he might have thought about a little more readily last year, especially in the first half of the season, because there was more situations last year where they kind of got in that situation where they would give up 2-3 goals in a row, right? Like like there was a lot of situations last year where they would give up a goal and it would really sort of deflate them and lead to more scoring for the other team. Whereas, this year that really hasn't been as much of a thing. So, it might have been something that was a little harder to recognize than it might have been last year. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's all kinds of aspects. So Entertop says his overtness and recognition of what needs to be better, and I think what you might have said, what he needs to do better, is refreshing. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, his openness, period, is refreshing, because we haven't seen. I mean, when's the last time we saw a Montreal Canadiens coach who's as open with the fans and the media as Marty St. Louis is? His own self critique is super refreshing, and the rationale for it. I mean, again, I don't know how much you. I mean, I'm sure Entertap, you do watch his press availabilities and his interviews. I do too. The rationale for him was that if I expect honesty and openness and sort of that from the players, then I have to be accountable as well, right? If I want my players to be accountable, and honest with themselves as far as, self-assessment and being self-aware, then I also need to be self-aware and, assess myself in an honest way. And, that, I mean, again, refreshing, encouraging, again, I go on and on and on about how excited I am about Marty St. Louis as a coach and how I think he's one of the better coaches in the NHL. And it's, his emotional intelligence is a big part of that. His, just, I mean, again, we've been, I mean, what's the opposite of spoiled is what we've been in Montreal with our coaches, right? We've had coaches over the years that have all been very closed, very rigid, very my way or the highway kind of guys, right? We've had, I mean, like, do you name it? Like Michel Therrien, I'm drawing a blank on everybody's names now. Claude Julien twice. All these guys. I mean, Dominic Ducharme, I think, was kind of unfortunately thrown to the wolves a little bit. But again, the organization also didn't encourage that, right? The organization itself was pretty closed-minded and not closed-minded, closed-lipped, I guess, is probably a better description. But yeah, it's nice to see not just, the coaching staff, but the entire organization being, Kent Hughes is that way as well. I mean, Kent Hughes obviously keeps things a little bit closer to the vest, and so does Jeff Gorton, because I think he has to by, the nature of his job. But, the organization, this is one of the great aspects of the rebuild, is the openness and the communication that comes with, with the rebuild, and the change in philosophy and the change in personality organizationally that has gone on with the rebuild has been amazing. It's like, to use your word, Entertap, it's been refreshing because the Canadiens were not that kind of organization for a long time. And that goes as well to the identity and the culture that they're trying to build, right? That, they're not they're not the great big Montreal Canadiens anymore. They're not that, we're not the greatest organization in the history of the NHL. You could still argue that they are, but they don't sort of wear that on their, on their sleeve or on their chest anymore. That's not, they're not living on that anymore. Now, they're more so about, okay, we're going to be a good organization that, treats its players well, has an identity, has a culture, focuses on scouting development, communicates better with the fans, all this kind of stuff. It's just, I mean, they've changed the organization from top to bottom. But I'm rambling right now, and nobody else is asking any questions, Entertap. It's just me and you. I don't even know who's even still in here anymore. I see that there's a few people, but I don't know who, and I don't really know how to check who's in anymore. Can I do that? I think it's just me and you, Entertap, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but obviously I love the opportunity to chat with you. Are you interested maybe in popping on the show one of these days after one of the games, Entertap? I don't know if I see that you're back doing shows with Coach Frenchie. I don't know that that's something that you're interested in, but let me know. But yeah, otherwise I think I'm going to shut things down here for tonight. Again, not the most enjoyable game to watch. As a Canadiens fan, the Canadiens go down 5-1 to the LA Kings. Goals for LA by Edmondson, Byfield, Fiala, Armia, and Fogle. The Canadiens got a first period goal to actually take the lead early by Josh Anderson. But otherwise, it was all LA after that. The Canadiens do go down 5-1. One of the goals was an empty netter. Again, that doesn't really change a whole lot. They did not play their best game of the year. Again, they looked like a very young and immature team tonight that was overwhelmed by a veteran, a much stronger veteran, experienced team like the LA Kings. So that's going to be it for now. I see you pop back in here, Entertap. If you do want to do anything as far as joining the show any of these days, let me know. Send me. You've got me on. You can communicate with me in any number of ways, but let me know what you think. I will address this last question here because Entertap did pop in and give us one more question. Bedard, Suzuki, Celebrini, Scheifele, which ones make the Olympics? Great question. I think for me, out of those four, I would probably say Suzuki and Celebrini. Bedard obviously is coming into his own. I love the fact that the NHL scoring leaders now is sort of, got a bunch of those younger, that next generation up there, Leo Carlsson, Bedard, Celebrini, those kind of guys. Celebrini, I think you could bring him because I think he is a multi-dimensional player. You can deploy him in a number of different roles, and he's the kind of guy who you can, his style of play is conducive to that kind of tournament, right? High pressure. You want a guy who is going to, you're going to be able to put him on the ice and you're going to be able to trust him, and he's going to do the right things, and he's not going to cost you, and he's not going to make mistakes. Bedard, obviously, offensively is spectacular, but I don't know that he is, again, are you going to put Bedard out there on the ice, against the U.S. in a one-goal game or whatever? I just, not quite there for me. Suzuki, I think, is a no-brainer. I think Suzuki now, you could make the argument that he's, a top 15 player in the NHL. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a no-brainer for him to be there. Scheifele, you could make the argument that he deserves to be there, but, he's pretty one-dimensional as well. I just think that Scheifele, what he brings is a dime a dozen. Not a dime a dozen. That's way too harsh. What Scheifele brings is something that they can get from other guys and probably better. There are other players who can do the same things that Scheifele does and do them just as well, if not better. So, Mark has a Habs question, so I will answer it. Welcome, Mark, by the way. I don't know if this is your first time here or not, but welcome and thank you for popping in. Yes, the answer to your question is resoundingly yes. I don't see any benefit to calling up Jacob Fowler right now. Goalies take longer to develop. I think it's it's definitely within. It's definitely in his best interest, and it's definitely in the team's best interest for them to take their time. Take their time developing him and bringing him up. There's no need to rush. Again, the Canadiens have two very capable goalies at the NHL level, so in that sense, there's no need to call him up. And second of all, Fowler is just, he's too young. He's goalies. I mean, how many 21-year-old? I mean, he's not even 20. Is he 21? How many 21-year-old goalies are there in the NHL? The answer is none. Right, and I don't even think there's any 22-year-old goalies in the NHL. There might not even be any 23-year-old goalies in the NHL playing any significant amount of time. I don't know how old Askarov is now. He might be 23. But it's a rare thing for a goalie to succeed. Now Jacob Fowler may be a rare goalie, and he may be a guy who's ready to go next year. But even that would be out of the ordinary, right? And again, there's no reason to rush him. And even if there was a reason to rush him, it would not be in anybody's interest to do that. Forgot to mention Wilson. What Wilson are we talking about? Am I having a brain fart here? I'm not sure who you mean by that, Entertop. I think Wolf is 24 or 25. I can confirm if you want. Boston Wolf DB. Yeah, Dustin Wolf is 24. Oh, Tom Wilson. Sorry. I've mixed emotions about Tom Wilson. I'll give you the reasons why I would. Askarov is 23, even though he looks like he's 37 if you look at a picture of him. Um, the pros for Tom Wilson for me um, are obviously, he's a big boy. He can change the direction of a game, with a body check or with his physical play. He can bring energy. He's obviously also, very, very capable offensively. Um, and, he's not just a guy who's going to only go out there and hit. So I think in that sense, he's very deserving of being on Team Canada. But he's also a guy who's very capable of going out there and throwing a hit, clean or dirty, that could get him kicked out of the tournament and get Canada, um, you know, 5 minutes, shorthanded. And again, like I said, that it could be a clean hit, right? We're talking about international refereeing, where you often will get penalties for being too big and too strong. Um, the other thing is that are you going to like how valuable is he going to be against Switzerland or against whatever? Like, yes, he's going to be valuable against the U.S. You could probably argue that he'll also be valuable against teams like Sweden and Finland. But, are you any better off with him than, a Macklin Celebrini? If you're playing against like Czech Republic or Germany or Switzerland. I don't know. I don't know. So again, I'm up in the air over Tom Wilson. It's not a case of me not thinking he deserves to be there. I think again, there's lots of guys who deserve to be there that aren't going to be there, or that are good enough to be there that aren't going to be there. And whether he's there or not, I would say that Tom Wilson is um, definitely deserving of a spot on the team. But is he one of, like, again, there's probably 50, 60 guys that are deserving of a spot on the team, but they can only bring what, 23 or 24 or 25, whatever it is. So that's my answer on Tom Wilson. It's probably not a satisfying one, but those are my thoughts on Tom Wilson. Mark, I think you're about to see the Habs fall back down to earth a bit, not just because of one bad game, but I haven't expected the hot start to last. Caulfield not going to hold a 66 goal pace amongst others playing at that level. I guess it depends on what you mean by fall back down to earth, Mark. Do I think that the Canadiens are going to win? Um, you know, what are they at? Let's just give me 1 second here. Do I think the Canadiens are going to win? You know, get 22 points out of every 16 games they play? Probably not. But are they going to fall back? How? Like, what? I mean, it depends on what you mean by fall back to earth. I agree. They're probably not going to maintain the pace that they're currently on, whether it's Cole Caulfield being on a 66 goal pace, or Nick Suzuki being on a 120 point pace, or what have you, or Jakub Dobash being on a whatever pace he's on. Like, yeah, they're not going to maintain that pace all year round. I think you're probably right, but are they going to, when you say fall back down to earth, do you mean, are they going to fall out of a playoff spot? Are they going to fall, like what do you mean by that? So, I think you're probably right. They're not going to maintain, I think we're probably seeing it a little bit now already, that they're already sort of leveling out a little bit, but they're not, I don't see them sort of, dropping like a meteor out of the the standings or anything like that. So, I think they've got a pretty good, a lot of what they're, a lot of what hurts them now is their sort of their struggles with, the mental side of the game, right? It's not so much about the skill and the ability anymore. It's more so about how to win and how to be a team that, like, tonight's a perfect example, right? They're up against a veteran team that's pretty savvy and knows how to play a good road game, and they just weren't able to overcome that. So what they lack at this point is more upstairs than it is. They've got all the talent in the world. They've got a ton of skill, and they can play on the ice with anybody. But again, sometimes it's about, last year we heard Marty St. Louis talking about, learning how to win and doing things that don't, help the other team, that kind of stuff, the sort of the psychological, mental aspect of maturing into a winning hockey team. So yeah, I'm going to shut things down there. No, I apologize, Mark. I know you're just arriving here, but we've been on for a bit, and I've got to shut things down. I got to go to bed. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast. So I do appreciate everybody for coming. You as well, Mark. I don't know if you're following us yet, if you're yet subscribed, but if you're not, please hit the subscribe button down below. That goes for everybody else as well. I'm told by YouTube that only about 30% of the people who watch the show are actually subscribed. So I certainly, hey, what's up, RWK? Good to see you as well. It's been quite some time, but great to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it by. Unfortunately, I think we're going to shut things down here for the night, but certainly inviting everybody to subscribe. If you're watching in a replay, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you do enjoy the content, give us a thumbs up. If you are watching on a replay and you have a question, fire away. I do my best to respond to everybody, whether it's in the comment section itself or in a subsequent show. It's great to have everybody. I wish you'd come by a little bit earlier, RWK. Would have loved to have a chat with you because you are the resident Kings fan, and I would have been interested to hear your thoughts on the game and what you thought about your team and how they played. I thought they looked. They're not a spectacular team by any means, but they're a team that knows how to win. They've got some good veteran leadership, and once they got out ahead, they clamped down, and it's the Canadiens have made a living of late, or so far this year, of coming from behind, and that's not something that's going to work very well against a team like the LA Kings. They know how to get out ahead, and they know how to lock things down once they do. So no need to apologize for being late, RWK. Again, it's just I suspect you were probably over hanging out with Coach Frenchie. I'd love to see you next time. We'll be live on Thursday night after the game. I expect to be able to go live after that game. So if you do want to pop by, that would be great. Yeah, sounds good, RWK. I appreciate it, and we'll definitely see you guys next time. So thanks everybody for popping by. Mark, Entertap, you, RWK. Who else was in here? Randy was here as well. Billy D popped in for a bit. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you guys all in the next one. I hope you have a great night. Again, Habs lose 5-1 at the hands of the LA Kings. Thursday night they play the Dallas Stars at home, and Saturday night they have the Boston Bruins. So we will see you in the next one, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, Doc to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.